What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stacks Bad. The numbers, we're going to take a few minutes here, real quick, and we're just going to look at AST SpaceMobile Incorporated, ticker symbol ASTS, listed here on the NASDAQ. This has become everyone's favorite stock, and I was laying out what could potentially happen if we broke this 403 level, it looks like, that we hit just last week. You can see Thursday going into the close here, and I said Friday we have to see it. Do we bounce off this level and possibly start to climb back up to this trend line, or do we break and potentially start hitting these previous levels and these moving averages and potentially start to pull back a little bit? And obviously, as we see, the stock has gone from 403 and it closed 533, up 59 cents, 12.5% on the day, while markets were kind of mixed, right? We were up, then we went like big red, and now we're kind of back green. Only the Dow down about 0.5%. S&P and NASDAQ ended up closing up green, which I honestly didn't see happening because as we see 10 and 20 year yields up almost 2% across the board. Also, shout out to anyone in the Discord. I mentioned puts on TLT, which of course is the 20-year, that tracks the 20-year, and when the yields go up, TLT goes down, and obviously vice versa. So that's why I kind of saw that yields, in my opinion, were going to keep climbing. So I said, consider TLT puts. So shout out to anyone who jumped in those recently. But more importantly, ASTS 533, right? And we said we were coming back to the trend line here. Look at the trend line. Look at the trend line. Literally 533. Look at that. We zoom in. It literally closed at the trend line, right? Went up a couple of cents, hit a high of 542, came down, closed at the trend line. Right now, after hours, down 7 cents, roughly 1.3%. So, in my opinion, one of two things are going to happen, obviously. Either A, we reject, and we come back down here, maybe, or this fib, potentially, 466, maybe. I'm on the 1 month, by the way. I'm looking at the 1 month. So 1 month top fib here, 466. How about if we go out 1 year? Anything? No, our fibs are down here. However, I did also say, we did look last time. Hold on. We did look last time, and I did say that after this big run up here, it's kind of hard to see, but after this big run up here, I did say that we technically potentially have our big pole and our flag forming. So we could also pop up as well. So it seemed like, again, that's obviously what makes trading so difficult. You know, are the fundamentals going to ring true? And was it, just a little bit of an overreaction? And do we start to slowly sell off? Or is everyone still pumped about it? We pulled back to this key level, have our bull flag, and then we bounce off the key level and go higher. And again, obviously, we see we went higher. But the close right at the trend line tells us, again, one of two things. Either we can go higher or we can go lower. So if we back up here, going back to this trend line again, now it would be this top trend line, right? Which goes from, looks like the highs of February 10th, 21, connecting across to those highs right there, August 15, 16, 2022, and I just extended that line outwards, right? So technically, that could be the next stop if the FOMO continues and people keep piling in, right? So if we look here over about the next week, you can see there's like June 5th, June 4th, and we can see if it takes a couple of days now to get up and break up to this next level, we could be seeing 7.25. We could potentially be seeing 7.25. Personally, do I agree with it? Absolutely not. And I think that this currently is an overreaction. However, again, it recently got some momentum. It did come down right to the key level and then bounce going into the close. So to continue bullish, in my opinion, kind of makes sense. But again, as I said, I'm not really trying to bash the company, but we technically don't know what the actual dollar amount is of that contract. And again, I'm sure it's a decent amount. But like I said last time in the last video, could be for like 10 million, right? Which is nice, but it's really not enough to pump the stock from 2.5 to north of 5. I mean, we're talking about 100+% move just inside of a couple of weeks here off of one little announcement. And it was a good announcement. But again, I was expecting it to come back down to reality. And I'm a perfectionist, right? I'm sure you guys kind of picked up on that. So I'm not upset that you were right and I was wrong and you continue to make money. I'm upset that I was wrong. That's what upsets me. But honestly, at the end of the day, we could go either way, and we know that we're not always going to be 100% correct, which is why, again, we have to take, in my opinion, you should always try to take in some fundamentals into the account as well. And I know that everyone's going to say, well, I'm a trader, it's all about technicals, you know that. And believe me, I do. Believe me, I do. And in this case, it was about the technicals, and it did run up. But now we've run into another potential technical roadblock, right? So if you're telling me, oh, it should break up and go to 7.25, you know, like, of course it could happen. But in my opinion, you're also kind of being greedy, right? I mean, again, we got this little announcement. The satellites aren't even being delivered for another 2 to 3 months, and then we have to wait for them to get launched, and then we have to wait for revenue to get in, right? So that was my original point. Not that the stock pumped off the news, but the fact that we're more than likely, in my opinion, going to slowly start pulling down. And that's why I said maybe the low is going to be 3. Maybe it's going to be 328, and then it's going to bounce and go right back to 5, right? Who knows? So it might not go back to where it was. But again, you guys who've been with me for a while, you know that these levels technically wasn't really, it wasn't exactly a personal prediction. It was more just showing you multiple levels that we could potentially see if we rejected this level and started to break down. So I was just trying to lay it out for you guys. But technically on the upside, for all you guys who are, you know, still bullish and you're hyped, obviously, you know, who wouldn't be? But next level technically might be about 7.25. So we might see about another 40% run from this current level. So only time will tell. But again, it came up and closed right at this trend line. So that's why if it rejects and we start pulling back into the 4s, in my opinion, you really can't be too shocked. But let's switch over here to stock charts very quick. And we can see now also the RSI. This is what I mean, right? We spiked up. We started to consolidate and come down, potentially forming that flag. Boom. Now we spike back up again. RSI now back up here at 72.5. Right? So this is what I mean. We could now potentially pause, let the RSI come back below the 70 benchmark, start to pull back to the low 5s, potentially high 4s, and then we can make the next leg higher maybe and slowly kind of start stepping our way up to 7.25. You understand? But top Bollinger Band here on the daily is 564. So we technically do still have some room to come here, but yeah, you have to keep an eye on those levels I mentioned. And right now it seems like this is a key level too. We can see that's right where the stock stopped, right at that fib 466. That's what caused the pullback to 4. And then we rallied up, and you can see it stopped right there again at the fib, pulled back, flattened out a couple of cents, and then tried to retest and finally broke up above it. And that's what really accelerated the move to 533. You understand? So there's a couple of key levels here for you guys to watch. But again, we have to take it day by day. You know, we have to take it day by day. And a lot of people might be like, oh yeah, I knew he was going to get it wrong. Again, it was all based off of this move and what was going to happen the next day, right? So we know we have to take it day by day. There are no guarantees in this market. And, you know, as much as we like to play these stories or whatever's trending, I want all of you to know, as crazy as this sounds, I used to tell this to people on the phone all the time when they used to ask me, what's the downside? Should I have a stop loss involved? Or if I open an account with you on 500 shares, you know, what potential losses could I take? Mr. Jones, stock could go to zero, company could go out of business. Do you understand the risks involved? That's literally what I used to say to everyone on the phone. And as crazy as it might sound, we literally have seen it happen in the past. So this is why. You have to understand the risks involved. In reality, is the company going to go out of business and the stock go to zero? No, probably not, right? But again, we have to not only just look at where we can go, oh, 7's next, oh, 9's next. No. We have to also look at where we can potentially sell off to and what other key levels we have to watch. But we might be due for a pullback back here. And that's why I'm saying these pullbacks are healthy, in my opinion. And that's why if it does start to drop, again, I know we're talking about, you know, almost a 2-point drop now from this level. But if it drops here at 363, in my opinion, you shouldn't get upset. Because what you want to see is the bounce back up into the 4s, right? And if it does that, then we might be able to make the argument and say, no, we're no longer fair valued at 250. Now we're fair valued at like 350. That's why it bounced off that moving average and headed back up to 4, right? So as bad as it might be in the short term, it would actually be a really good sign in the long term if something like that happened. But I mean, MACD just flying straight up, right? And now we have RSI back above 70. So that's why I'm saying now that it kind of forced its way up to that trend line, we may potentially pause and start pulling back a little bit. Checking over here on the weekly, and we can see RSI now up to 65 and 3/4, so not quite there at that benchmark. However, really hasn't, maybe right there, technically hit that 70 benchmark and then went into a big sell-off. So it seems like as we get near or to that 70 benchmark, that's when the drop happens. So you might see a little bit more, maybe like 545, 550, and then all of a sudden it starts rejecting. And by the end of tomorrow, it's back at like 480 or 471 or something. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to see what's going to happen. But you can see here on the weekly as well, my top trend line is about 7.25, and we can see the 200-day moving average on the weekly 766. So we have to see if it really wants to fight and get above this trend line. And if it does, you guys might be seeing $7. So big shout out to you guys. Again, I was kind of hesitant on it. I actually honestly still have to admit there really isn't any urgency. But we know that the FOMO is coming in. We have, some bullish technical indicators. So if the stock does continue up to 7, I would understand. And of course, I hope it happens for you guys. Because again, it's been in a downtrend for several years. So now that you guys have some momentum, you're kind of back at these 2024 levels. Now you're fighting to get up to 7. I really wish all of you the best of luck. I really, really do. For the record, I am not involved in this. I'm not holding any puts or anything. I have no position on ASTS. You can see also we're right at this pivot point, right, as well. This is why I'm saying we might have a rejection here. 530. And we were at 530 basically when we just started the video. Now we're at 526. No, we were at 526. It was at 530 maybe before I started recording, but technically we're below that, right? So this is what I'm saying. This is why a pullback maybe to 387 might be healthy. Coming all the way down here or like sub 3, that might actually be an overreaction as well. So that's why I'm saying we might see a pullback, maybe back to that 4 level before we bounce again, because the RSI in my eyes does seem a little overextended. But next stop could be 7 plus. We have to keep an eye on that trend line, in my opinion. Next stop could be 7 plus. Let me see. Yeah, MACD cross to the upside. We knew that. RSI 65. Okay. So yeah. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to do a quick update here. And yeah, we're back up to the trend line. And now that's the level you have to watch. Literally right where we closed at about 533. And now we have to see, do we break higher and go to 7? Or do we reject and pull back into the 4s? So only time will tell. And also, if you guys happen to miss how and where I drew out those trend lines, just ask in the comment section, and I'll reiterate like what dates and what candles I drew them out from, so that you can do it on your screen as well, and potentially try to line up some of these trend lines for yourself as well, so you have some key levels to watch. And I'm going to end it there. Once again, Stocks by the Numbers, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comment section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up, algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel, right? I hate saying that. But of course, subscribe to the channel, right? That is our handshake agreement. That's all I ask. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, they're very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.